talking about this for a while now, Amit, and we've checked with many occupiers. And I think the framing of the question becomes very important when you ask occupier what percentage of your workforce will work from home permanently. See, right now, more than 90% of most office occupiers are working out of home. There's no choice. But when we ask this question that what percentage of your work people will work from home once things get back to normal, once there's a vaccine, once things get back to normal, when there is no social distancing issues, once there is no social distancing in public transportation, once all that becomes normal. And the answers we got was anywhere between 5 to 25% in most cases. There were some people who said zero. There's some people who said more than 25. So I would take an average of that, which is around 15%. From a co-working perspective, today many occupiers believe they don't want to spend too much on capex, where the co-working industry will kind of benefit from that. Many tenants are looking at flexibility. They don't want to look at 3 years or a 5-year lock-in periods. There again, I believe co-working will kind of come in. So these are some of the trends we've been noticing over the last couple of months.
Great. Thanks, Ramesh. Good news for co-working industry, I guess. So, Sanjeev, obviously Northern Trust has a large base, 18,000 people across 22 international locations. How has your organizations and employees adjusted to kind of the new situation? And what's been the current attendance in terms of workplace? And then what are the trends that you're seeing from a global standpoint?
Amit, right now we are all what we call a resiliency mode, right? Across all our global locations, and I'll be more specific to India, all of us are working from home, right? And so that's what we call the resiliency mode, and trying to get your basic work done, meet your client's expectation and requirement. So that's where we are right now. Uh, as we look forward, I think what you're going to see is we will continue to be in this mode for the immediate future, right? And I don't see that changing till the time you don't have a solution to this virus. I think that's what's going to be there for the immediate future. Uh, I think what we're also seeing is business starting to think uh, about work from home and its implication. I mean, for us, we had lot of percentage of people working from home, but what's happened? But there are a lot of people who never worked from home. It was not considered possible, but COVID has just proved all that wrong, right? And now, so there is the whole thinking: what should be the new operating model? And I see very early days to make any decision, but what's happening? The way I look at it is over the next maybe 3 months, maybe 4 months, business would have 6, 7, 8 months of data on what they do, how they're working, the risk, the data privacy issues and all of that, right? And I think from that, I think will come, in my view, a new operating model on how we need to work, right? And that perhaps that operating model will then start driving some of our real estate decisions. So from a real estate perspective, right now, it's resiliency mode. Get your work done, and there are a lot of challenges for people working from home, internet issues and all. And there are. You want me to talk some on those challenges also, Amit?
Oh, sure. Yeah, Sanjeev.
Yeah, so it's not been very easy, right? So we have a lot of partner employees who are very young, right? So they stay in PGs, the bandwidth is not there, Wi-Fi is not efficient, all those challenges. So people are really struggling hard to make it work. And I think one thing that I can predict for long is there will be a certain percentage of work from home in the long term. Percentage need to be determined. Like Ramesh was saying that, companies talking 1 to 25%. And for me, that percentage will come after the business decides the operating model. But one thing for sure would come is it'll become sort of a mandate that everybody need to build a work from home capability in the long run, right? So I think that's one thing one can always predict. Percentage will uh, is too early to predict, and that will be driven what I think is once the operating models are defined by the individual business units.
Sure.
Amit?
So Shashav, obviously Lodha is one of the country's most remarkable commercial real estate players, 5 million square feet going to 11 across various verticals. So with a lot of your current tenants being corporates and MNCs, what's been kind of the impact that your CRE segment has taken? How do you see the developers adapting to the current situation, and how are you specifically and then your community supporting the tenants as well?
Thanks, Amit, for having me on. So I think it's been remarkable, and like to share that now we've crossed about 100 days, right? And it's an important number. So I remember at the end of March, everyone was like, "This is going to go back to normal. It's a short lockdown, and life will be back to normal. Nothing changes." At the end of April, it started becoming a bit more scary, and then it was like, we have to get back to work. Business has to start. You got to continue. You just can't remain like this. And then I think towards the end of June, pretty much the acceptance that this is going to stay with us for a while started hitting in. And equally important was that all of us have worked in this new model for about 100 days. And as I say, that's when behaviors almost start becoming more permanent. So I think one thing's for certain, I don't think we'll ever go back to the way we worked pre-COVID. There will be fundamental changes because, we've all adapted and are getting used to a different way of life, and probably better models will emerge. As a developer, for our clients, it varies. So there have been some, there's a very large private bank, which is, a large bank that works in Palava. And when we talked to them in about June, how things were, obviously their essential services, it worked out great for them. And for them, it was the only reason it happened was 75% of the employees, by design, they chose that location because their employees were there and they grew more employees in that same area. With 75% being right close to the office, so so it was like a work near home or walk from home, business was completely normal. They actually even moved in some of their operations teams into the location to keep things going. So that was one extreme of a client, which, not too much disruption. And there are other clients where basically you suddenly had to scamper and figure out how to work from home. So I actually took it more as what is the impact for us as a developer was to understand the trends from them. And so what they explained, many things will change. Some we don't know yet. First was business continuity. How do I make sure that, we have to be prepared for this next time? We have to be prepared that, a single location can go down. So a few of these clients which are actually on their way for consolidation into single locations, single geographies for scale benefits, etc., they've actually reversed and said, no more. I think we'll have to go to a more decentralized model, or at least a multiple office location model to de-risk myself. This particular example is unique. You get a containment zone in one office location, not in the other. That creates, huge havoc. So I think this trend of not fully centralization will probably happen. And as a developer, I've got to think about it. How is that going to change setups? How big can a single campus location start becoming? Second is, this whole discussion on work from home. It's 100 days, and whether, there be varying estimates, as Ramesh shared, 0% to 50% plus. I don't know what will happen eventually, but for sure there will be a chunk which will move home. But actually, what was more interesting for us was to figure out when we spoke to our own employees or some of our tenants who then spoke to their employees, how do they feel about work from home? The happiness, etc. On the basic level, there was a 70 to 80% were quite comfortable, right? They like this idea of work from home. But then as you started understanding more deeper why, it actually, at least from a Mumbai standpoint, which is where we are, it really came down to that 3 hours a day that they spend traveling in traffic that which was spent with family was a huge saving. It's travel time, it's cost. And that was the part which really liked it. But what they didn't like was really missing the social engagement, missing your collaboration with your employees. That became an issue. And third, which is a little more funny story, we all said it was great because you got a lot more work-life balance right now, so much time with the family. It actually started emerging that now it's becoming too much time with the family. You do want that separation as well. So that was kind of funny. So what I believe, taking this implication is that there will be a hybrid model. It's unlikely that we will see 5-day work weeks for everybody. I think very few people may actually even go back to that model. So an alternative model that we are preparing for is how do we cater to this notion of working near home. How do we create where the large residential hubs are rather than necessarily only business districts? Because then you will probably able to address the need of travel, address the need of productivity, but still feel more safer because you're not using public transport. You have that control over yourself. And then the third thing that emerged as we were talking to people was we all talked about our offices, our designs being focused around safety, but I don't think for a large percentage of people, it was a no-go if certain health and wellness parameters are not met. I think health and wellness going forward will become as much as a gold or a platinum certification. It will become a requirement as to, what is the quality of the air, the quality of the environment, the safety of the employees when you make the decisions of office spaces. So there'll be retrofitting that we'll have to do in some of our existing buildings, and our new buildings, we're already changing designs during this lockdown and going to start execution now. So these are the three trends that I see from the
That's great, Shashav. Thank you for those insights. Roshan, as corporate real estate lead for Accenture, you manage close to about 18 million square feet in India. So, as one of the largest occupiers, do you anticipate a deconsolidation of real estate portfolio as an emerging trend?
Hi everyone. Amit, frankly, I feel that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So you know what, it's actually not a straightforward question because I see a few things panning out. A, I see potentially more efficient utilization of real estate for sure, due to all of the triggers that Ramesh and Shashav spoke about. I definitely see a more integrated, a more complete, a more total workplace ecosystem, as some people call it, which is a combination of the office, the work from home, and probably a third party work location. Um, uh, and the third thing that we are seeing, at least in the short term, is social distancing, which is coupled with a rather gradual return to offices in the short term, right? Now that in the short term will probably preempt any knee-jerk space decisions, right? At least in the immediate term. Now, what this will do in the longer term, when the dust settles down on all of this, is there'll probably be a more focused effort to look at internal synergies. I'll tell you what I mean by that. That any demand growth will probably get offset by any efficiencies that also get derived due to efficient utilizations. So yes, that will probably happen. I think that's a safe call. And when you do that, as a corollary of that phenomenon, aging old portfolios from a real estate perspective will always be under the scanner. That always happens typically in a 10-12-year-old churn. But what might happen right now is that there a lot of prudent occupiers, as well as for that matter other corporates, will use that as an opportunity to look at, to take a long hard look at their real estate and see what they want to kind of skim off the surface, right? But on the flip side, what is important, and which is where I come in saying that I overall think that this is going to be probably a lot healthy, a lot smarter for our industry in general, is that uh, the retention of real estate that happens at the end of this whole phenomenon, people will focus a lot more on the employee experience, a lot more on the customer experience, and will probably ascribe a premium to the real estate that they eventually retain. So net, short, long answer to a very short question, but more than deconsolidation, I see more efficient management of real estate that people own. And whatever growth that will come back into the picture will get used to kind of get offset these efficiencies that you can derive internally, especially for large corporates. Because I say this very often, if you have 5%, 10% vacancies, which were maintained by design in your portfolio, I mean, that vacancy itself is the size of a mid-sized company, right? So the thought that was earlier with a lot of firms that 5-10% vacancies, eventually somebody's paying for it, probably a customer's paying for it. The fact that a customer's paying for it may not be good enough reason to retain it, because the focus is going to be on extremely razor sharp focus on efficiency of real estate, like everything else. So that's what is going to happen. Having said that, whatever tangible impacts that you're going to start seeing are going to probably happen only post the next 2 or 3 quarters, for the simple reason that social distancing and this whole gradual return to office phenomenon will probably put paid to any immediate decisions. I think there's a fair bit of wait and watch in the industry. And whilst you do that, during that entire phenomenon, the only two focus areas are going to be your employee and their health and well-being, of course, and your customer, as to how do you continue ensuring zero downtime to your customers. Everything else, which includes capital and long-term commitments and additional other cash spends, are going to be put on a pause. So that's what I see.
Great. Thanks, Roshan. Arvind, Microsoft has extended work from home for all employees till October, with nearly 6,500 plus employees in India. Could you elaborate on how things are panning out with the current Microsoft employees in India, and what are the key determinants, right, being faced by work from home options?
So Amit, we actually have close to 13,000 people in country, mix of both employees and vendors on site.
Sure.
And yes, we have extended. In fact, we have only said 1st of August, while the October guidance is more America centric. But given the the COVID situation getting worsening in country, that will be a moving target. Talks of locations like Bangalore, Hyderabad, and NCR, where we have large presence. Talks of peaking in October, November. It's left to anybody's prediction. Nobody has a crystal ball, but I would expect that to be a moving target. As of today, our sites are completely locked down, and not even me as a facility manager is entering the site. So we obviously put that emphasis and importance on employee safety, and we've also enabled most of the employees to work from home. We took special approvals. Interestingly, the government has been very proactive enough. Along with NASSCOM, we've been able to lobby with the government to relax STPI and the SEZ rules. Even though we are not in SEZ, but I also know many other peer companies in the SEZ industry who have been able to get relaxations. So we've been able to move a lot of assets to employee homes, desktops, monitors, and even ergo chairs. So we've enabled employees to work from home very comfortably, making sure their comfort is taken care of. So that's our current trend. But we do have a little bit different of expectations in terms of people getting back to work. See, we are a product company, end of the day, and we always believe in great products needing proximity of people, needing a lot of collaboration. And the way our office has evolved, we've been a private office based, long back pre 2000s, and we came into more of a cubicle based setup. And now we are into this open seating configuration, but obviously it's all now taking a hit on, physical distancing. I wouldn't call social distancing, but more of physical distancing. Today, even besides our techs, besides our engineering teams, product development teams, even our support teams are also on assigned basis. Now, I expect, when everybody comes back to work, it's not going to be the same usual. I do expect a lot of, we do have capacity reduction happening because of enforcing physical distancing norms. So besides engineering and tech support, we will definitely be putting people to be sharing desks, as in, for that particular day, whomsoever comes in will have an assigned desk. Obviously, we're looking at tools like Outlook plugins to help employees book a particular slot for a few hours in a day when they get back to work. So those are the aspects that we are right now focused on. And even though we have gone through this period for the last 3.5 months, there is still a lot of unknown out there, Amit. And being a global company, we do have offices in China. It's not as big as India, but we're learning from our folks in China about their resilience and back to work, and other locations, emerging markets in Southeast Asia and also Japan, where they are COVID free. But we do see employees. There's a reluctance of employees coming back into work. So there's still a lot of unknowns, Amit, and our current back to work program is more like a working document. We meet every week. We take notes from each of the other groups, other regions, other peer companies in country, including our competitors. So we try to share notes. But yes, we are still in a very uncertain environment.
Thanks, Arvind. Thanks for the insights. We are doing an online poll right now, and obviously, higher tech and IoT intervention is kind of the changes that people expect to the office space. So I would love to get a quick read from the panel, and starting with Roshan. Roshan, what are some of the key design changes that you anticipate in the office space? Is 6 feet office the new normal?
So no, I won't kind of give a blanket answer for that, Amit, because I'll tell you why I say that, because I think it's very industry based. I mean, even pre-COVID, right? How different industry sectors reacted to workplace design was very different. You talk about financial services on one end of the spectrum, probably, and how, say, a BPO, for lack of a better example, was probably on the other end of the spectrum. And plus, for a lot of large corporates, like for example ourselves, who dabble in most parts of that spectrum, right? So for example, we do everything, right? And after 15, 16 years in my firm, even now I keep discovering what all my firm does. I mean, I never seem to be very sure of what all my firm does. So on a more serious note, I think one size doesn't fit all. But what I will definitely say is that in terms of what is going to evolve, I think one point that I would want to emphasize is that not everything is and should come up as a surprise, right? Because if you actually go a little deeper, go a little technical as well, a lot of quick wins that are coming up were always best practices even earlier. You talk about indoor air quality, you talk about specific parameters in the HVAC system, you talk about overall health and well-being of employees. Then none of these are new concepts, right? So probably the first big design impact, as you said, that I'm going to see is there's going to be a reaffirmation of everything that was known. It's just that people probably are going to be a lot more focused and a lot more prudent and unapologetic probably about those concepts. So that's one for sure. The other thing, a little more tactical, probably, I definitely, so A, for sure, I mean, I think it's going to evolve. Anybody who says that he or she has clear answers as to how it's going to unravel over the next 3 to 6 months is either delusional or is lying. But some no-brainers, some quick wins are going to be an emphasis on touch-free technologies. I think that's a fairly safe bet. I think that's something that I definitely see. Over the long term, I see flexibility and nimbleness being buzzwords, because either you future proof yourself, or at least you ensure that you are ready to evolve as things go on. So I see that becoming a big thing. That apart, of course, I mean, anybody will count things on at least one of their hands. You're talking of how do you kind of bring in clustering, and how do you kind of change, bring in barriers, and how do you kind of look at open offices. But I think at the core of this is, and I say this, and I said this last week as well, it is not a real estate issue. It is not a real estate problem. This at its core, at its genesis, is a business problem which needs to be solved in the same fashion, which basically means that you need to go back and put your hand to your heart and understand how is your business going to evolve in terms of occupancies, when you speak about remote working and all of that. Also in terms of what is the kind of work that is going to get done at the workplace, right? I think at at the core of that question is going to be the change in the workplace design, because you can't really expect to make knee-jerk changes in the workplace and then expect your businesses to adapt to it. I think it'll have to be the other way around. It'll have to be the dog wagging the tail and not the other way around. So we'll need to kind of, if not have clear answers about what is the change that business is going to face, but at least take some educated punts in terms of what are the changes that are going to happen, and also be flexible enough to evolve as the situation evolves. So that would be my take on the evolution of design over the next year or so, probably.
Great, Roshan. Ramesh, so de-densification kind of has been a key focus area, right? At least from a discussion standpoint. We'll still see, as Roshan said, things will evolve. It's a business problem, not just a real estate problem. So will that result in this de-densification? Will that result in corporate occupiers taking up more space?
So last week I was talking to an American bank, and they were previously occupying 150 square feet per person, and this was back in 2010. And today they occupy 100 square feet per person, and they've taken a call that they're going to go back to 150 square feet per person across the world, including the large centers in South India. So that's something we are beginning to see. But like Roshan said, one size doesn't fit all. There'll be lots of different types of industries, different kind of businesses. So one will need to kind of things will change. But I thought on the de-densification part, there was Amit, lot more discussions happening in April and May than I've seen in June and July. And maybe the reason why not too many discussions are happening about de-densification in June and July is as companies start coming back, they're struggling to get more than 10% of people in their offices. And when you see 10% of the people, you don't need to anyway think of de-densification, because only you're occupying only 10% of the office space. My projects team tell me that with current social distancing norms, maximum 45 to 50% of the office space can actually be filled up anyways. So, and we also need to remember, Amit, that over the last 10 years, we did this survey that in Asia Pac, close to 14% densification happened. So if it was 100 square foot per person, it's become like 86 square feet per person. So that's already kind of happened. I like the way Shaishav kind of spoke about how new hybrid models will evolve. And Roshan also touched upon there's a lot of touch-free technology which will come up, which basically means that contactless will be king. Everybody is worried about the two big risks today. One is the air you breathe and the surfaces you touch, and both that has a direct implication on de-densification. So companies will have to come out with their own policies around social distancing. Right now, there is government policies, there are advisors saying this should be, but every company will come out with their own social distancing policies. If you look at the key worries right now, whether it's lift constraints, toilet usages, canteen overcrowding, all these kind of things, there is again a direct implication on de-densification. How many people can use the lift at the same time? The other day, a landlord was telling me with current lift usage norms, if there are, let's say, 2 or 3 people being allowed in lifts, it could take him 5 hours to get everybody in his building up. So obviously, that's not going to kind of work. I think going forward, spaces will not flow into each other like before. There is going to be new, I think open plan offices will have to go through some amount of change. Companies will look at how there could be different apps to guide employees where to sit. I think the new office space mantra will get a little more into privacy and separation, which are things which was not there for 10 years. And like Roshan said, and Sanjeev also spoke about it, how there could be new changes in the way cubicles and offices and how all this are going to be looked at, including more stricter distances between the desks. So these are some things which will have a direct implication on de-densification. But overall, in the last 1 month, I believe de-densification conversations have reduced a little bit, as many companies are talking of, okay, should I get employees back in September or October? As timelines get delayed, those discussions have also kind of come down on it.
Great. So, Arvind, that's a great segue. Everybody's talking about technology. Microsoft at the leading edge of it. So, what are the new and emerging technologies that you see being implemented in the workplace in the post-COVID era?
So Amit, so far we've not been, in the sense of booking a workstation. Everybody used to get an assigned seating. If you're in engineering or if you're in tech support, it's only the sales and marketing guys who are expected to be on the road meeting customers who get a shared office, shared workspace. But given the social distancing norms or physical distancing norms, we are looking at reducing capacity to establish at least a 6 foot radii between each other, which would result in reducing of capacity in our offices. And so our technical teams have developed plugins into Outlook, which will help an employee reserve a seat, just like how you reserve a meeting room today in Outlook. And we'll also help be putting occupancy sensors in each of the workstations. It will be either through your wired cable, or we even have advanced technology to probe through Wi-Fi as well, to understand what's the occupancy in office, does it exceed the social distancing norms, and things like those. And eventually they will become productized. For us, rolling it out as an add-on product into our Outlook or O365 sort of products. So a lot's happening. Like I said, it's still a working document. Everybody is understanding how new employees back to work are reacting to situations, and there's still a long way to go. But like Roshan said, at least in our offices, when we so far have been looking at accessibility, diversity, and inclusion. Now comes the new phase of making it purely contactless operations. Be it elevators with a hologram-based punching in of your numbers, or your washrooms with an auto swing door. We're looking at everything that can be without a touch.
Excellent. Thanks, Arvind. Sanjeev, so obviously employee wellness and health, I think all the panelists spoke about it. What do you anticipate as some of the changes that will happen in terms of focus on employee wellness and health perspective?
Amit, I think that's a great question. And I think Roshan alluded to that earlier. I think wellness will become, a key part, and people have been talking about wellness certifications. For example, we designed a new office in Pune 2 years back, and we sort of rolled out an IoT platform basically for connecting space, energy, and people. And we looked at getting a wellness certification done, right? I think wellness will drive a lot, and I think the other thing is we need to look at this pre-vaccination and post-vaccination period. I think from a pre-vaccination period, I think we will go the extra mile to do everything. Whether it is social distancing, making the office total, touch-free. Measure the, people still even today measure the carbon, the CO2 in your office. how often do you clean your air contact, and all that stuff. All that stuff has been there. I think it was something that the facilities team did because that's their job, and they never spoke about it. Now this is the question people are asking, right? I've come back to work and somebody coughs, that will come through the deck to me. So you will see a lot of work that was being done in the background. Now those data being put right in front of people on everything that you do from measuring the CO2 in the office and all of that. So I think wellness will drive a lot of changes in the pre-vaccination period, right? And I think once uh, and I think that I am sort of, I'm not in that camp. A lot of people say everything will change, and I don't think everything will change a lot, right? Uh, Things will change, but I think once you have a vaccination and then that whole risk of goes away. Today, a lot of things are driven by fear. People are thinking, or if I walk on the road and I'm with cuffs and then I am back, I get infected, I'm in a hospital. That fear is very, very large, and that is driving where today our employees are saying they don't want to come back. It's fear, right? And I think that fear is driving a lot of thinking, and I think a lot of things that people we spoke about are things that we will do in a pre-vaccination era, right? And I think post-vaccination, I think we will do. I think that some thinkings will change. Today you got a bad cold. I was telling this to somebody today. If you have a viral fever in the family, if it starts with the husband, go to the wife, with the kids, and then sometimes the husband and wife will go to eat the same prescription. You don't go back to the doctor again, right? But that's not today. Today, because you don't have a vaccination, there's a huge amount of fear. And I feel that a lot of things that we're doing and which all the panelists spoke about, and wellness will be because employee safety is first, and we will do everything that matters from a wellness perspective. I think that wellness will get divided into two parts: pre-vaccine and post-vaccine. And I think I will see a more watered down discussion post the vaccine on that.
Great.
Amit?
Thanks, Sanjeev. Sheshav, what from a building standpoint? Obviously, I know you've built large campuses at Lodha. From a building standpoint, what do you see the changes in terms of the infrastructure and the services network that you build into buildings? How do you think that will see some core changes?
Yeah, I think the standards, again, going back to that whole notion of health and wellness becoming and employee safety becoming a very critical aspect, we've already started relooking at our current standards and what needs to be changed. And I think the point just made earlier, uh, today the fear is heightened. And so what we probably think we will do today may not be needed as much once we go back to a more normal life. But there are some changes which are just logical. So we kind of group it into now, three outcomes that one is looking for. In general, how do you design the building so that you can limit the entry of pollutants, including viruses, pathogens? Second is, how do you limit the spread? And then third is, how do you build confidence amongst the occupants and the visitors? So if I were to take the example on, let's say, HVAC, right? There, it'll have a significant impact on how we think about air quality and how we improve air quality as a part. So one thing we're actually evaluating in one of our newer buildings is, active filtration, ultraviolet technologies that can probably inactivate certain viruses. Will that, how does that work? What's the cost impact and what's the right trade-off? Second is more passive around filtration techniques in the existing AHUs. So the increased standards on the filtration so that the quality of air is that much better. This is much easier because you can retrofit in existing buildings as well. And it just makes easy logical sense of that we're going to do anyway. Third is around how do we make sure, which is more, I think, in the current pre-COVID world, increase ventilation. So extend the operating hours, allow for greater circulation of fresh air, that will have some implications on costs, but in the current environment to build confidence, I think it's something one should probably undertake. Also, in the current environment, we're looking at higher temperature and humidity. So we're doing it in our own office right now and seeing can we adapt from 24 degrees to 26 degrees? And what's the level of discomfort? Uh, it's mixed so far, but it's something that we are evaluating. And then other probably more different ways of even just distribution of the your air or air distribution, displacement, ventilation, etc. Those are design folks are looking. So what I mentioned before, I think we will be doing or already doing. The one around changing the entire distribution flow and design is under evaluation, and how does it work within our context.
Perfect, Shasha. I know we are running out of time, and we probably want to take some Q&A as well. But I just want one or two kind of key trends that, since I have three occupiers and experts that obviously work with occupiers. So starting with Ramesh, what are the key trends that will shape the occupier decisions? And I'll then ask others to also give one or two top things. Ramesh, you're on mute.
Sorry. I think the biggest change, Amit, will be there'll be a lot more focus on health and wellness more than ever before. I think developers will need to work towards making the buildings more safer, more cleaner, more healthier. I think developers will also accelerate all their sustainability and green programs. And I think buildings will evolve into places which where people can learn, socialize, and connect with each other. These are some of the big changes we expect in the next few years from the office space.
Great. Arvind, what are your views?
So, Amit, one key takeaway, at least in this uncertainty, is that the office will continue to stay. We're never getting rid of offices. We definitely need employees getting back into work. Working from home, the typical feedback that we have heard is that there's a lot of burnout that's happening. While people who can plan their day can have a better work-life balance, but people who do not plan their day can end up being really burnt out. And we're already hearing people that they want to come back into work. Maybe we'll not be in the same square footage. Maybe we will reduce it a bit. But yes, long term, we definitely want employees to get back to work.
Roshan, your perspective?
I'll probably talk about talent. I think apart from a lot of other stuff that's bound to kind of change either incrementally or by large steps. I think the most interesting thing for me personally is I think the whole reconfiguration of the talent of the future. Believe you me, I think the war for talent has just begun. We've heard of liquid workforce for a while. We've heard about ability of people to contribute at extremely high levels by bringing in niche skills and not necessarily leading teams. I mean, that was the core of liquid workforce. I think that's going to just get reinforced. And a big one is probably going to be that if indeed the kind of work there's not going to be a blanket thing, mind you, it's not going to be that people are going to be permanently at home and all of that. But then if you do belong to the kind of work group who can spend reasonable or significant amounts of time out of third-party locations which are not at the workplace, then the whole world opens up for you. So then you don't need to be in your metros. You could be in your tier 2 cities. You could be in your hometown as long as you have good connectivity. Now, just imagine what that could do and the kind of impact long-term that can have, apart from obviously how does your space planning change and all of that. That for me is the single biggest and probably the most exciting opportunity that's on the table.
Sanjeev, your views?
Amit, this COVID has really hit all businesses, right? So businesses are evaluating its impact, and that will take few quarters to see how it impacts. So I think for people like us who are responsible for real estate, there is this business looking at us from a flexibility perspective of the leases. If the business is, if you have challenges there, that's one place to look. I think that there will be, from a business perspective, looking at real estate, can you build in there? Apart from that, I would say the employee challenges will be there as we come back to work. A lot of people have got used to working from home, and the comfort and the advantages it brings, and also the challenges around it. I think the other thing could start in a small way, but will gather speed over the next few is there is this quote which somebody said, "Don't commute to compute." Right? So companies will say, if you want to answer mails or do that at home, but come into the office for collaboration. I think the offices, like Arvind said, offices are here to stay. Companies will want people to come to the office, because I think you can most effectively collaborate when you're sitting in a room with a whiteboard and you're writing down things, and then you're challenging, right? I think the best of ideas come there, not on a phone, not on a VC. So when you're on a call, you are not at your best, whatever be, and you can never drive ideas there. So I think that will come in. Come to office for collaboration, but otherwise you can do work from home, right? And the other thing is, to what Roshan alluded, is the workforce different. I think what this has said is that you needn't to hire a talent, the talent needn't move to where your office is. You get a great guy and you say, oh, my office is in Bangalore, my office is in Pune, or my office is in Mumbai, and that person may be from Shimla, and he says, I don't want to move. I am from Mysore, I don't want to move from Mysore. Mysore is a far better place to stay, right? I think that will change. A lot of people will say, yeah, there's no harm, right? And I think connected to that would be, uh, people also will look at niche talent, and then and with a lot of people, some percentage working from home, you'll also see companies moving away from 1 FTE to like a 0.5 FT, which you see in Europe and the US. Basically, I want to work for 4 hours a day. So I think those are some of the I think that changes this is going to have, and I think on a long-term basis. Amit?
Sheshav, your final words.
Yeah, I think it's definitely, as everyone spoke earlier, it's going to be a different model, hybrid. And I think it'll be very difficult for companies to retain best talent and ask them to travel 2 to 3 hours every day in the future, because this is going to probably go on for another 3 to 6 months. So after 9 months, if I'm going to tell my best guys to travel 3 hours a day in public transport, very hard, right? So we are going to have to find this notion that we talked about. We've seen in India, live, learn, work, play, all has to come together. And a country like India, where public infrastructure is not good enough, it makes perfect sense. Maybe now this becomes a reason why both developer side as well as the occupier side will look towards the employee and say, how do I now make for you live, learn, work, play happen now?
Great, Shashav. I think thank you to all the panelists. This has been, personally have learned a lot, so it's been a great experience. We do have quite a few questions from the participants. So I would ask Sumit to lead that discussion and spare us another 10 minutes. I know we are almost out of time, but a few questions if we can take. Sumit, over to you.
Thank you, gentlemen. It was a very insightful session. So I've clubbed few questions in various categories. We've got a lot of questions on Zoom as well as on Facebook Live. So one of the common point which we're getting is people looking to understand, is there any drop in commercial rental prices given the current market dynamics? And an extension to that also people are asking is around investor sentiment. How will private equity funds and investors, will they continue to pick up office assets in India at the same pace? Ramesh, would you like to comment on this?
Yeah, we believe this year the investment appetite of funds will come down as they invest more in known safer markets, which is their home countries. But going forward, when they look at investing in office assets, they would look at density and also operational criticality of those facilities. In terms of rentals going down, the market is definitely evolving from a landlord favorable market to a tenant favorable market. But we believe significant rental reductions will only happen in markets where there is significant amount of supply coming in or significant amount of sublet space coming in. I think in the next couple of months we'll have a better idea on how much or if the rentals will drop. In most cities other than Hyderabad, there's not much of supply coming in the next 2 years. We should keep that in mind. Although in the last 1 month, I've been hearing a lot of cases of tenants wanting to give up sublet space uh, to into the market, which has been a little surprising.
So the another question is, it's quite interesting. So have you seen any concerns from employees facing anxiety and stress while working from home? Roshan, Sanjeev, Arvind, do you want to take this?
Sumit, I can go first. Yes, there is a obviously working, this environment, brings back memories of the dot-com bust of 2000, followed by the US market recession in 2008, right? So there is a lot of anxiety with employees from a job security perspective. And that's why we put a lot of emphasis on employee wellness and healthcare programs, even if it delivered remotely. So we've been constantly keeping morale events. We've been encouraging managers to keep the connects with their employees on a regular basis, still do virtual team meetings, coffee time and stuff like those to keep the employees morale up. I think that's end of the day, people are really social animals. They need connectivity beyond just their homes. So I think that's one good thing that has happened in our company, and it can be proliferated. Continue to keep in contact with your folks, and live meeting is another great example of at least staying connected face to face.
You know,
Sanjeev,
just to add to what Arvind said, I mean, doing a similar thing at Northern. The other thing that we've seen is a lot of pressure on people and employees working from home is they're working for much longer hours, right? And that has been because of the infrastructure issue, the network issues. So that has slowed down the pace of work, and hence people are working much longer hours, and that's other thing that's been contributing, and it's a challenge that we struggle with to manage on a continuous basis. Sumit?
Got it. Perfect. So there's very interesting and a positive question around uh, on Facebook Live. It says, which segment of companies are not impacted by the pandemic and would most likely to be taking up more space in 2020? So Shasha, Ramesh, any views? Who will take space in this calendar year?
The kind of company that gets the vaccine out, I guess.
Two, three sectors, Sumit, and I think Roshan also touched upon it. I think pharma companies, healthcare companies will definitely do well. I've seen e-commerce inquiries being quite stable, even in these tough times. Many global in-house centers of American companies are still very active. They went on a pause mode for a couple of months, April and May, but many of them have come back.
Got it. Um, there is also an interesting business question. So what does the reaction to COVID teach business about situation management and businesses resilience? Will businesses react faster to shifts in business environment and technology in the future? So are there any generic management learnings which we can have from this situation? Do you think those learnings are there, and will they continue? Shashav, Amit, would you want to comment on it?
Sure. I mean, I think this is truly at least from an India standpoint, the crisis of our century. I don't think this magnitude of a lockdown and the economic impact could ever have been seen. So, but every business in their own way has learned to become resilient, has learned to operate. So it's clearly taught everybody that there is already resilience. We just need to always prepare for it better. And I think that's for me is the biggest learning right now, just as to how we've been able to, as a company, address this particular lockdown.
Perfect. I think we have a paucity of time, and we can't take any more questions. We will answer the directly on various questions. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for your time. Amit, any closing remarks from your side?
So thank you. I think it's been a great learning experience. I knew that it was a panel of experts, but they kind of gave me insights which were I never thought were possible. So great learning from all of you, and I'm sure the participants also enjoyed it. And thank you everyone for your time, and look forward to having you guys in the future as well as we continue to deal with the crisis.
Thank you. Thanks, Amit.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank
Amit.
you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.